Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden on a little bit of an overcast day. It's a little windy, but nothing to what it was yesterday. Yesterday I tried to do a video. Everything just flew out of my hands. The mic flew somewhere, the mic broke in the end even, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna call it a day. So I have a brand new mic set I'm very happy with. I did a good research. I've already announced it, I think, 2 months ago that I thought about changing it, and I finally did it. So let's see. I'm really excited about editing today because I think the audio will be better. I hope it will be, at least. What I want to do today is I want to continue with some planting because, you know, I took you with me to the nursery in Germany where I bought a lot of beautiful perennials. They're all, not all of them, but a lot of them are still sitting on the driveway, and I want to plant in the island bed. That's why I was walking with you towards the back of the garden here, so you have a good close look at it. This is the area where I want to plant, and on two sides of the island bed. So one is a full sun side of the island bed and the other one is more partly shade. So it is quite intriguing because I have two different varieties and one goes on each side of the island bed. What I want to do as well is I just want to give you a quick update on the spring garden here, because you might see in my back a lot of like drifts of beautiful pale blush. All my tulips are out now and looking fantastic, and I try to remind myself to always tell you again, just in case if this is the first video you see of me, where I am. I'm in a zone 7B outside the city of Gdansk at the Baltic Sea, very northeast. The climate here is very nice and mild climate in general, but it stays kind of on the cooler side for a very long time up until it really warms up in June. So it is definitely worth spending money on tulips here, because tulips last pretty much for an entire month here, which is absolutely beautiful. I know when I was in Düsseldorf the other week, the tulips were gone and everybody said like, yeah, the tulips were there for a week maybe. And I'm like, well, my tulips here stay for a very, very long time. So what I want to do first is give you a quick look at the spring beauty in my garden and then show you what I want to plant with you today. So I hope you're excited about today's project. I think this is one of my favorite vistas into the garden, standing in the midsection and really getting the entire view into the back garden and then the landscape. We have island bed with the two beautiful big walnut trees, and you really get to see these beautiful big drifts of tulips. This is my favorite variety. It is called Silver Cloud, and I think what works so well is that they really brighten up this entire area. And what I do is I only plant two varieties of tulip in the entire mid and back section of the garden, so it doesn't get confusing. Nothing tries to fight for attention. So I have these very light tulips that you can really see from the distance because they kind of shine. And then as we continue walking, there is another variety, a very dark one that I grow. And actually there are two varieties. There is the one that I used to grow in the previous years, but I made a decision to completely change it to another tulip. So before I was growing, I'm going to show you what I had before, but most of them fizzled out. This is Victoria's Secret, more kind of like a parrot type of tulip. They are nice, but I discovered that I just really love simpler tulips. So I made this decision to change to this one here. That is Paul Sciarra, and what I really love is the simple shape, very long stems. They have a grayish tint to them, which I think is beautiful, so they work extremely well with a silver cloud. Fun thing, or weird thing, not really funny, is that half of them kind of look like this, only in this area. I have no idea what the deal is. Maybe some vowels came in, really, I don't know. It just always happens only in this area here. All the others came up and look fantastic. But yeah, they are like in their full flower stage, so this is why I want to show them to you. And I just really love the idea of having the light ones that you see in the distance. And then as you find your way through the garden, you suddenly discover, oh, there are more tulips. And then you have these really dark, sinister tulips. But yeah, so much about my spring garden and the tulips. I want to do some planting. So first I want to plant here on this side, which is fully south-facing. And you already see some containers probably standing in there. And then I want to plant on the other side as well, which is a little more on the partly shade, because there is a cherry tree providing some shade. But before I do the planting, I obviously want to show you what I actually going to put in the border. The first perennial that I want to plant today, and actually in big masses, is Bistorta, and this is my favorite variety. It is called JS Calor, and I'm gonna give you the link just down below this video where you can shop it, at least if you are somewhere in Europe, because there is a really good nursery where I bought these and I'm super happy with the quality of these plants. And if you might remember, and if you follow my account already for quite a while, last autumn I did a video about Bistorta where I showed you different varieties that I grow in my garden, and I was really advising this one because it is fantastic. It flowers extremely long, it has beautiful foliage, there is nothing to complain about, and this is why I made the decision to change some of those that I had in my garden in the island bed. I had Taurus, I think, and Firetail, something like this. They found a new home on the slope because they're still nice. But I think here I just want to have more than just nice, and this is why I'm going to change them. So just to give you some key facts about this Bistorta variety. Bistorta in general, you can see beautiful, lush green foliage, and they come quite early in the year, which is nice. They build a beautiful dome shape of foliage, and as the year progresses and we go into autumn, this foliage changes color into a nice reddish tone, so it even has a little bit of an autumnal interest, which I think is always lovely. That flowers in cherry red, so it has these kind of flower spikes, very elegant long stems, very whimsical, an ocean of flowers kind of like waving in the wind. And I think cherry red is a beautiful color because this is a red that is a little bit more on the bluish side, so it works extremely well with all of the asters that I am growing in my garden. In terms of location, it prefers a sunny location, but it thrives extremely well in partly shade. This is why I'm going to put it in both sides of the island bed and even in another third area of the garden. So I'm going to show you all those areas in a second. And I already grew this variety in both locations, in full sun and in partly shade, and I couldn't see a difference. Both areas are working extremely well. Normally when you do it in both areas, you will discover that a plant, if it likes to thrive in the sun and partly shade, it will always do better in the sunny location. This one doesn't. This one is equally gorgeous wherever you put it, and the great thing about it as well is in terms of soil, it's not fuzzy. So if you have a normal neutral garden soil, it'll be very, very happy. I never water it. It's just mulched in, and once it is established and the roots really have the opportunity to just really go deep down into the soil, it's not going to disappoint you. And the beautiful thing about this perennial is normally if you grow perennials in your garden, you know the flowering season is kind of like 6 weeks to 2 months maybe. This one is pretty much 6 months. It flowers for me at one point in July. If you're in a milder climate, it's definitely going to start earlier, even in June I would predict, and then it flowers all the way through up until the first frost. Sometimes I have these blooms on Christmas, which is quite incredible, and it is a zone 5 if I am correct, so I'm in a zone 7B. Obviously this works fantastic for me, and that might be very interesting for a lot of you as well. So what I'm going to do now is quickly show you those areas where I intend on planting these. The first drift goes on this side of the island bed, so the south-facing side. There are some really beautiful Nepeta here. This is Walker Slow, and I only grow Walker Slow because I just love it. It's fantastic, beautiful blooms. It already starts producing its first buds, so I think in a good 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have beautiful blooms, and I hope that the tulips will be still in bloom as well, because then they are just like a magical combination. But this is an area that I already prepared in a previous video together with you, so this is where I'm going to put the Bistorta. Next to it, I have some Japanese bloodgrass, which is a really lovely combination because later on in the year I have the red grass in combination with the red flowering Bistorta. So I feel this will be a very beautiful site. I've already prepared the soil, so all I need to do is just come in and plant those quickly in here. This is the other side of the island bed, just underneath the beautiful cherry tree. I want to plant a huge big drift of really exciting perennials. There is another one that I'm going to give you more details about in a second, but then if we continue walking, there is 6 Bistorta standing, and I replaced the Taurus. So Taurus is on the slope now. I think they'd be very happy there, and I think I'd be very happy with those beautiful JS Calor in here. All I need to do is just enrich the soil a little bit. So I've removed the mulch. I come in with some fresh soil, some organic bone chips, dig it all under, and I think they will be very happy in here. And then I still have some open space for coleus that I still need to buy. I had some coleus there and I thought it looked just fantastic in this area. The last big drift of those Bistorta is going to go into the new herbaceous border at the end of the garden, and this is where I'm going to walk with you now. It's going to happen just underneath a pear tree, and I'm so excited about that because once all of those plants are in, it really starts feeling like the border finally fills up and comes together. I'm so excited about that. This is the new herbaceous border with a pear tree flanking the bed on the right side, and just underneath there, well, almost underneath there, this is where I'm going to plant all the Bistorta. I have some tulips in here looking beautiful. Well, almost all of them are looking beautiful. Again, some of them are kind of like, what is that? Why are they doing it? What's the problem? It happens sometimes here, but then the rest of them, they look fantastic, and this is all that matters. But yeah, this is what I want to do, put all these Bistorta in here. This is going to be quite a big drift and quite a big impact, I believe. And the reason why I do it is because we're so much at the end of the garden, and when sitting on the top terrace, you really want to have a nice, good view onto things. And if I would only put 3 plants in here, things would just disappear, and it would just look a little wild and chaotic, I think. So I made the decision to use just less varieties, but plant those in really big drifts, so I have a really good impact in the back here. The second perennial that I want to plant today is turtlehead or Chelone. I hope I say it right. I'm always so bad with those Latin names, but nevertheless, if you remember, the third video I ever shared with you was about planting autumn anemones next to the garden shed, and in that border I already have a lovely drift of just exactly the same turtlehead. This is called Hot Lips, and I'm going to link it down below the video as well, just in case if you want to shop it as well. It is a beautiful perennial, and to be fair, I just tested it over there because when I planted it, I've never seen it even anywhere. I discovered it in an online shop and I thought, just give it a go. It works for partly shade, it works perfectly in my climate zone. It flowers quite late, it has beautiful foliage, and I was like, well, ticks all the boxes that I like to have in a nice perennial for the garden, and I was not disappointed in the slightest. The fun thing is, I picked these up in the garden center in Germany, and they're really standing more in the sun, and the leaves are a little bit on the green side. And I bought the exact same variety in that same garden center a couple of years ago. And when they grow in partly shade, which they actually prefer, the leaves come up looking a lot darker. So I'm just going to give you a little comparison afterwards so you can see that actually when they come up, the first leaves are a little darker, and I think this is nice. This is just a very nice interest because when we're so early in the year, everything that shoots up is kind of just like lush green and fresh, but then I like to see something a little different in the borders as well, and I think this is exactly what it does. It really creates a beautiful dome shape as a single plant. They don't grow hyper fast. This is the one thing, at least here in my garden, that you might want to know. So when you plant them, go big. Plant a lot of them and quite close together so you really have a lovely impact and a wonderful drift, but it's worth it. The flowers, again, they are kind of flower spikes, but completely different to Bistorta. Bistorta are very kind of like small individual flowers, very elegant. Here it is a spike, but the single flowers are bigger in general. They flower pink, very lovely, bright, warm, bluish pink. Hard to compare to anything. I was kind of, how do I compare it? Maybe like some sort of like a smaller snapdragon in a way. Just Google it for yourself. If you are intrigued, they are absolutely fantastic. In terms of condition, I told you they thrive extremely well in partly shade, also in sun, but from my experience, when you put them in sun, have your water level consistent because they do really not like to dry out. Then they kind of like fizzle out and they show that they are not happy. While when I put them in the partly shade area and I never water them, they were happy throughout the entire year. So I think they are just a perfect plant for that area. In terms of soil, pretty much the same to what Bistorta is. They are just very happy in a normal, neutral garden soil. So I don't need to do anything. I always try to enrich the soil a little bit though. Just come and, you know, with some fresh soil, some organic bone chips, what I always do, they go down to zone 6. So I'm in zone 7B, so they definitely work here. I haven't lost a single plant over the past years, which is also really lovely. And then the last thing I'm just going to tell you now, because then I really start with the planting. Whenever I plant something, these plants obviously come in a container, so I always plant them dead level, and I always just put some organic bone chips into the planting hole as a starting fertilizer. So last thing I'm going to do is to just quickly show you the difference of the leaves, how they would actually look when you grow them in partly shade, and then again the area where I plant them. Just in the border next to the garden shed, there is a lovely drift of Cedar Matrona, and yes, that thrives in partly shade because it is very adaptable. And here is a drift, well, there's actually a little sneaky geranium that's self-seeded there, but I love it. I'm just going to transplant it. But here is a turtlehead that I already grow, and you see the difference in the foliage. I think you do at least. Just look at that. This is how they look when they come up really in partly shade. They are just darker, and this is how they look when they are standing in full sun. They are just a lot lighter, but I really appreciate when they have this kind of just like dark color and almost like a little burgundy tint in there, because even the stems are really lovely. Ooh, where is it? Very lovely dark burgundy stems. Obviously, this is where I'm going to plant a big drift of them just underneath a cherry tree here. So they are really in partly shade again. And just behind it is a huge drift of Aster astran. That is exactly the combination that I have on the other side, because they are a beautiful planting neighbor. You have the pale blue or like the violet of the asters in combination with a pink turtlehead. And I think standing here, this will be very nice because then I have a huge drift of both plants in the back there and then here in the front again. So I have this moment of repetition going on, which I always think works extremely well in a garden. All right, so there is enough of the talking. Let's finally start with the planting. I'm so excited. I'm just walking to my very, very messy garden shed. So cute on the outside, so messy on the inside. Oh, I really need to clean it though. But yeah, I'm excited, so let's start the planting. All right, everything is planted. The wind is picking up again, but today it is a warm wind, so I don't mind. Compared to yesterday when it was just like freezing, you were like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to stay outside, and I really didn't stay outside. So today's all right and cool. Obviously, I'm going to give you a quick look at everything. I mean, you've seen the plants. It's not going to be such a huge, massive transformation yet. Later on in the year, it's going to be so much more exciting when everything thrives and really grows in and starts to come to bloom. Still, let me just show you what we did today. First, I want to show you the area here in the island bed underneath the walnut tree, and I really love this vista, by the way. I think this is so pretty, like the garden shed in the back framed by the cherry tree and the walnut tree, and I can already envision how it's going to look later on in the year when the turtlehead is in its flowering stage with the pink blooms and then the really nice asters just behind there. So I think this is going to work extremely well. And on the other side, this is the south-facing side of the island bed. The Bistorta plants are looking so nice already. I really love this lush, fresh green foliage that they have. And then with the grasses in the back there, there is a variety of calamarostas, actually 2 varieties of calamarostas, and some phlox that will be kind of like pink red. It's really zingy. It's really lovely in summer. Can't wait now really for those lovely catmint to come to life. And Alfie in the back there munching on her stick. Can I zoom in a little bit? Hold on a second. There she is. Alfie! Hello! You want to play? Yeah, we're going to play in a second. And the new herbaceous border in the wind. This is like whenever you're really coming to the back of a garden at the slope, wind hits it. But those plants are going to be very sturdy. I know they work here, so I'm really excited about that. Big drift of Aster Asteron here as well, then the Bistorta. I have the sedums that we planted and divided there, some calamarostas grasses, more asters, and then I still have a little bit of, come with my finger, open space here. So there I still need to buy some smaller varieties of miscanthus, and I will underplant those with Rudbeckia. Rudbeckia cherry brandy is going to go in there. Pretty much exactly the same to what I've done on this side here. And I can say that at least 50% of the cherry brandy Rudbeckia came back after winter, which is really exciting and thrilling because they are known to be very difficult, at least in my climate zone. But I can also tell you what happens here. They had leaves and those leaves are gone already. So little slugs and snails came in. Oh, I need to see. I really need to have a firm eyes on this situation. Exactly the same last year. I love Rudbeckia, but they are so difficult with slugs and snails. So I hope that this one is going to bounce back still. That is it for today's video. And I can already tell you, brace for impact, because the entire month of May will be filled with planting videos. I have so many things still waiting to find their way into the ground. You know, all those annuals that I was showing with you, a lot of things that need to go into the veg garden. Still got some perennials. I have an Acer. I'm so excited about that. An Acer that will go into the front garden. I saw the foliage in the garden center and I was like, ooh, this is bound to work. This is going to look so pretty, but I just want to wait a little bit more. I just want to wait for the euphorbia to come to bloom, because then I can show you why I think it's going to work so well in there. So I think the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take you with me to the back again into the veg garden. Hope you're excited about that. Hope you were also excited about today's video, and I would love to welcome you in my garden very soon again. Take care, guys. Bye.